Hey guys, it's coffee time. My house is such a disaster right now. I mean, I showed you guys in the video from yesterday, but man, I look around and I know where things belong. Not the prints yet, obviously. I don't know exactly where I want all of those. There are some of them where I have an idea of where I want them to go, but everything else kind of has a place in my mind. I just haven't taken the time to move any of it, and I kind of feel like Sam and I should do that together anyway. So every time I walk into the kitchen, I'm just like, ignore it, ignore the living room, it looks gross. My mom and I were talking about it yesterday, and she was like, you know, you just need to take one room at a time. You just need to decide on one room and then make that look like it's finished, you know? And the living room, I think, is going to be the hardest one for that because I need to find a dining table and all of that. I haven't had a dining table in a long time. But I feel like, look, what I want to do is I want to go to a little thrift store or like a swap and just get an old table and have that be our dining table because it'll be cheaper and it'll give me a DIY opportunity. I can just be like, sand it down, put some weird stuff on the top, dining table. And Sam might hate it. And if Sam hates it, we can just put a tablecloth on it. What? Blowing my mind. So that's my plan right now. So I need to focus on the living room, get the living room all done. And then we can focus on this room and get this room all done. This room works. For what it needs to be, this room works. I want the bookshelves up. I want the background to look like it's not just nothing. But you know, it works right now. The living room does not work as a living room at all. It's just so much stuff in there. And the construction outside is still going. But at this point, it's no more jackhammering. Now it's raking? I'm not sure what they're raking though. I think it's probably, what I think probably happened is they did lots of work on like cement. Hi. Yeah, what are you doing? Where you going? Where you going? I think they probably brought up a lot of cement or that's what I'm looking for. Cemented isn't a word, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Like either redid an area or just took some cement out of an area. And now they're either scraping around like pebbles for some landscapey stuff or, oh shoot. Oh my gosh, my dad's gonna be so ashamed. What is that stuff called? The like pieces of wood that's all like shaved up and you use that in your landscape stuff to like cover up the, oh god, I can't remember what that's called. Been away from the farm for too long, yo. It's been too long. You guys can maybe understand what I'm saying though. It was crazy. When I was home, my brother and I went for a walk all over, I was gonna say the apartment, all over the property in Oregon. And it was nuts to look at some of the plants because, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something, we went on this crazy landscaping spree at that house. We planted so many trees, we planted so many just nice plants all over the place. And walking around now, everything is huge. Like, we were laughing about the fact that we still have a drip system involved, we still have everything set up as though these are, you know, young plants. But they're all so old and big now, you don't really need to water them, you know? So it was kind of crazy just walking around and being like, man, I remember when this stuff was so, like, this big, and now it's huge, like, bigger than me. It's nuts. It's super nuts. That's one of the things that's really cool about, like, gardening and landscaping, though, is nurturing something, you know? They were talking about that on Orange is the New Black. I finished Orange is the New Black and I'm really sad about it. Like, what am I supposed to watch now? All I want to watch is more Orange is the New Black, but it doesn't exist. Yeah, they were talking about how, like, a form of therapy can sometimes be gardening. And I totally believe that. Growing up on a farm, I totally believe that gardening can be a form of therapy. Just nurturing something, you know, just like helping it to grow is so special. The very first thing that I ever grew, I've told you this before, I don't care. The very first thing that I ever grew was a radish. My dad took me into the greenhouse and I planted a little radish in a little thing like this. And when it sprouted, I was so excited. And then once it finally looked like it was gonna have something on it, like bare fruit, if you will, bare vegetable, my dad pulled it out, because the radish is a root. My dad pulled it out and then disconnected it and gave it to me and was like, you wanna eat it? You wanna eat the very first radish? And I was like, yes! And I remember so vividly, it wasn't like, I don't know, there wasn't any ceremony to it. I was just in the car with my mom. We were driving off to go to the mall, I think, and my dad stopped the car. My dad like ran out of the greenhouse and stops the car and said, you want to eat your radish? And I was like, yes! I was so excited and ate my radish, and it did not taste very good, but it didn't matter, you know, like I made that radish. I raised that radish. I was so proud of myself. I think that's one of the reasons why our deck out here, I really want to grow a bunch of stuff out there. My mom and I were talking about me getting like some lattice from Home Depot or something. Just some lattice that goes all the way across, and then having viney plants like green beans and things to grow on there. I think that would be so fun. Because I love vines anyway, so it'd be so cool. Maybe get some star jasmine and put it on the sides, and then we have flowers all up in there, and then bees come. Feed the bees. Feed the bees, yo. But I had my walkthrough today. Forgot to tell you about that. I had my walkthrough with my old landlady today. We walked all around my old apartment, and I had to admit to her that the fridge had a bunch of dead flies in it, which was gross. I don't think I told you about that yesterday. So we go over to my place, right, to get the last of my stuff. And I open up the fridge and there's like pretty much nothing in it, right? There are like a couple of condiments that I left in the side. Dead fruit flies everywhere, like all over the fridge. And I was so horrified, it like freaked me out so bad. In the freezer too. They were in the freezer and the fridge. I was like, how did this happen? How did any eggs even get in there? How did they hatch? How did these things even like live for a split second in this sort of condition? The best part though was I was feeling kind of bad about showing it to my landlady. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to be like, look, I don't know what happened, but apparently something got gross in there, and there were the fly babies. There are dead fly babies everywhere. So this morning we're walking around the apartment, we get to the kitchen, and I tell her, I'm like, just so you know, this gross thing happened in the fridge. And she's like, gross how? And I open it up and I'm waiting. I'm like ready for her to just be like, ah! She looks at it and she goes, well, I mean, we're getting it cleaned anyway. And I was like, is this common? Are you used to this? Because this is terrifying to me. The idea, Jeannie was saying, I was talking to Jeannie last night, Jeannie. I was talking to Jeannie last night, and I told her about the fridge, and she was like, that's gross. But then she said, you know, that actually happened to me before. And what happens is, sometimes it's not completely sealed all the way around the fridge, and a fly will get in to your fridge, like they'll crawl in because they'll smell the food. So they'll get in, they'll lay babies, and then they'll die in there. And then the babies will hatch. And I was like, but how did they get in the freezer? That's what I don't get. They were in the freezer and the fridge? Yo, that's whack. That is so creepy. It's like, nah, I'm not about that life. I don't want that anymore. But it's done. I'm done. I'm done with that apartment, which is kind of sad because this apartment's very plain and modern, you know, which is great. That means that we can do a lot with it. But the old place just had so much charm. It was just it looked so old. It was so charming. I don't know. So it's kind of sad to see it go, but so far Sam and I are happy here. So that's good. Aside from the raking. Aside from the jackhammering and the raking, everything's going great. Oh, and the broken fridge. Look, whatever. Life's good. But anyway, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stream, actually. But I hope you guys had an amazing day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Mwah.